The war within Alpha is over. So, what do you think? Is this World of Warcraft returning to the glory days? Or,
We've got a freshly released content patch and all the ups and downs that come with that, a game-changing event this week in Mop Remix, and the final zone update of Alpha, as well as Blizzard's parent company jumping onto their own grenade. There's a hell of a lot to get into. The first thing we're going to do, though, is Darkheart, and a big thanks to our members over at Bellular.games and a bunch of Darkheart then, it's our last content update before the pre-patch, and I think it's pretty good. The actual main quest line was definitely the shorter side, but it was jammed full of things to read, lots of teases for what's to come. I think the performances were great. Locust Walker is a real fun character. I just like how sort of intimidating he feels, and the Void Ante is being turned way up. Now, if you want more of a proper lore breakdown, like I did a full video of that a few days ago. Now, some other parts...
how is everyone feeling about the Void being the granddaddy of all the problems in the Warcraft universe? Before it was the Burning Legion, but then the Burning Legion did a 360 and said, oh no, we're actually the good guys. We're here to stop the Void from coming. Then was the Jailer, and then he got defeated and he did a 360 and said, ah, you fools, I'm actually the good guy. I'm just trying to stop what's coming. And what's coming is probably the Void, I'm assuming. Though, does the Jailer care about the Void? I'm not even sure. But it is definite that the Void is going to be the big bad now. And I don't know how I feel about this lore-wise, because the Void is kind of a little bit too nebulous. I like when they try to do that, oh, the light is not actually good and the Void is not necessarily bad because you can use the Void, and the light kind of uses you, and it does not care about anything else but itself, technically. I kind of like that, but I also kind of feel it's a little bit too hard probably for the writers to make it work in a decent sense, and it not being just generic, oh, here's good, here's bad, and, you know, making it kind of blatantly obvious. I don't know how I feel about the Void because of that. I hope it succeeds because, you know, it could be a great story where, oh, look at this, the light's actually bad, and now we need to fight the light, like Illidan did. I'm pretty sure everyone likes how Illidan actually just said no, and was Illidan, because Illidan's an awesome character.
Were a little bit more broken. There was an issue where the group finder was fixed by, no kidding, turning the mature language filter on, and just a bunch of miscellaneous bugs, but the good news is those are mostly all sorted now. Warlocks, though, really took the cake, so they were discovered to have been broken, then they weren't, and then they were actually accidentally fixed. It's weird. So the Inferno talent was supposed to generate a lot fewer soul shards, but it's actually been broken, and it's been way stronger than intended since Shadowlands Season 4. Weird. So they fixed that, but then they realized...
I mean, not weird at all. Every class has way too many mechanics that no one can actually track because no one at Blizzard plays at a high enough level to actually track it, especially between PvE and PvP. So this does not actually sound that uncommon, to be real.
Is that they kind of needed to revert the fix because, well, all of the tuning, the gameplay, it was all built upon the bug. So in fixing the bug, they were inadvertently kind of being the fun police. Certainly one of the weirder bugs we've had. Anyway, the next thing was Bullions. So basically, the patch kind of broke them. If you looted the 2 Bullion from the weekly dungeon quest, which by the way is huge, that's just straight up a free bit of gear that's really, really good. But if you looted that from the dungeon quest, then you wouldn't be able to loot your usual one. The good news is that's now fixed. And speaking of fixes, soloing BFA mythic raids. A lot of minor changes to old BFA raids have came in and they make it way easier to solo them. That combined with Season 4 gear being strong just means like, yeah, you can go mad, you can farm out those transmogs, and there was initially a problem with Mythic N'Zoth and Mythic Cahoon, but the good news is those have been hotfixed, so basically, have at it. Next then, we've got Mob Remix. The global release is Thursday, 10 AM PDT, which is about half an hour before my guild's regular.
The hell is a Mob Remix?
Rescheduled raid time, so I don't think any of us will be attending. If you want a reminder on how the gameplay will be going down, you can check out the video we made about that a little while ago. Otherwise, there's really no way to prepare for it. I mean, you could perhaps make a blank character to reserve your name. That's pretty much it. Of course, though, you'll need to delete that and then remake the character when this launches, because unfortunately this is only doable on a new character.
Wait, so you're dealing like a 500 crit. Oh, that's a 2k damage. And the mob has 250k life? Isn't that a bit excessive? I'm currently playing Kata, and I can't stress this enough. This is my own experience, my own opinion, not that this is a conveying opinion, because, man, people are really defensive for Kata. You say you don't like something, how dare you? Okay? This looks like what I don't like currently playing the Cataclysm pre-patch. Basic mobs die with one hit, and then there's stronger mobs that don't do anything, but they just take an extremely long time to kill. And by extremely long time to kill, I mean they actually take like 20-ish seconds, maybe, or something like that. It's really boring because there's no mechanics. It doesn't feel rewarding. You're just kind of hitting a piñata, essentially. It kind of feels really bad. And this kind of looks the same, honestly, unless the boss actually does something that could be problematic. Well, one guy's dead, so maybe there is mechanics here, but not in Cataclysm pre-patch.
You understand that technically, but yeah, it's probably the one big point of criticism that could be leveled at it. Anyway, once you've done all that, one thing I would recommend is installing the Narcissus add-on, because Peter has been working on an amazing UI for getting all of your MOP remix gems in order, so that should be really, really nice for when you're actually playing it. The next thing then is some Darkheart content, because 10.2.7 also brought in very long-awaited Heritage Armor quests. And the good news is they're actually really good, especially the Draenei one. It is absolutely excellent. It is definitely worth your time. The Orc Heritage quest, though, that kind of blew people's expectations out of the water, and this one has absolutely done that again. It is clearly a massive labor of love. There is tons of real well-written dialogue, lots of optional stuff if you want to just delve into more details. It's basically everything you could hope for a Draenei Heritage Armor quest. It's great. And it also doesn't get bogged down in just pure emotion and dialogue, though. There's plenty of action, it's well-paced, there's a good little bit of background drama going on as well. Of course, no spoilers for today's video, but it's interesting stuff. Some of it, I think, could be kind of big, and we'll cover it in the future. As for the trolls, it is shorter, which is not as ideal, but I am actually hearing pretty good things. And that means that an overall, narrative perspective, well, the Darkheart patch has basically been one big win, which for real, we've had a mixed time with the narrative over the last few years. It's nice to see.
Does anyone like Khadgar, honestly? Or is Khadgar too much of a MacGuffin that just appears at random places, that he disappears for too long of a time, and then he does nothing, and then he does everything? I feel Khadgar's way too much of a MacGuffin.
See something that's just really damn good, and thankfully, that's continuing into the new expansion. The War Within has received its 4th alpha build. It's got cool stuff. The new Shaman Stormbringer tree is a lot of fun, it's just lightning everywhere, but Warlocks continue to be upset. The class rework honestly just feels like less mobility and less fun, and the TLDR is that Dreadstalkers no longer guarantee cores for demo, and Destro is losing their Blasphemy Infernal summon, which honestly kinda sucks. The feedback is essentially all negative about that, so, I mean, at least they got their new tier set appearance update, which is nice. People are raving about that, but
wow, that does not look impressive.
I think they need to reconsider some of what they're doing with the Warlock class. I can totally understand from a design perspective why they want some of those limitations, but ultimately, it just feels less.
Why would you give a Warlock a Buddha appearance? Or is this more of a Kali appearance? I'm not even sure. This seems just, well, yeah, it's definitely more of a Kali appearance, but why?
Fun. Now, the other specs getting their changes were Rogues, Brewmasters, and Unholy DKs, while Fire Mage got some nice targeted tweaks. So Rogues are mostly getting cleaned up, with things like Serrated Bone Spike becoming a passive that's applied by Rupture, Sepsis being removed, Shadow Dance now only being available to Subtlety, and some other things like that. Some obvious improvements, some things that will feel a bit like a nerf, you know the drill. Now, the good news is that their hero talents are due some fixes and improvements based on feedback, things like the Trickster moving away from using faint, so that's definitely a positive. Brewmasters then get what looks to be some nice updates to just smooth out their damage intake with more Stagger and Purify, as well as Healing Elixir and Bone Dust Brew being replaced. Unholy DK then gets a whole bunch of stuff actually. Army is now a 3-minute cooldown instead of being 8 minutes but relying on a cooldown reduction. Gargoyle is getting a passive choice talent to offer a smoother damage profile for dungeons if you want that, while most of their other CDs like Apocalypse and Dark Transformation are being standardized at 45.
Okay, listen. This has been a problem with World of Warcraft for forever. Like, look at these change logs. Are you kidding me? Why would I wanna... Why do I want to play a game where every week, probably, or every 2 weeks, I need to, well, literally read a whole goddamn light novel without pictures of what are my changes for my class? And knowing Blizzard, the problem here is very simple. What if my class now is complete garbage and no one wants me in the raids? What then? What if my class just completely got deleted? What if my spec got deleted? What am I supposed to do? Not play the class that I want to play? That's stupid. Blizzard needs to find a way to fix this. Because there are so many people who hate the idea that they can wake up, and for no reason their class now either one-shots everything or doesn't one-shot anything at all anymore. Just because Blizzard decided, hey, time to tweak things for the sake of tweaking effectively. I don't like this. I don't like when they do this. It's just far too much, far too confusing, and far too often. No one likes the idea that their class just suddenly becomes weaker or unviable or their spec becomes bad. They need a way. They need a way of figuring out how to fix these things.
5 seconds. And one last thing in classes, Rat's new talent to proc wings whenever they use Wake of Ashes just feels amazing to play, so that's really cool. And a little small thing, monks are getting Glyph of Jab so they can actually Tiger Palm with their weapons again. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Okay, zones then, the overall situation with Alpha. So here's the deal. Azj-Kahet is in, and that basically means that our 4 big zones are there. There's quite a lot to talk about. I don't want to go too much into...
Looks pretty cool.
Or really into any spoiler details here. That's not really what the news is for. But I will talk about just overall, like, the vibes, how things are feeling. So, the zones overall are really, really good, I would say. One thing I certainly notice is just scale, size. Like, these zones are absolutely goddamn humongous. So, yes, it's only 4 zones, and that is fewer zones than, say, what we got in Wrath of the Lich King, but my god, they are humongous. And that does mean that just the level of scope, the sort of sense of adventure and fantasy, it is just pushed really, really far in this expansion. And that's not me just saying, oh,
I'm not against this. Less zones does not actually mean that you're getting less out of, an expansion or of a zone or whatever. And them being bigger is not necessarily, by the way, better, but not necessarily also worse. It completely depends on what happens. One of the big things why people like Classic and love the zones in Classic is because every zone is not unique by, just how it looks. In Classic, not a lot of zones are unique by how they look, by the way. But, you know these zones because you have spent time in these zones. So the more time you spent in a zone, honestly, the more familiar you are with it, the more it feels like home, the better it is. The less time you spend in a zone, the worse it becomes because... well, you're just in a rando place doing rando things that you probably don't care about, so that's not great. So I kind of like the idea of zones mattering more in general, that you get this feeling of, oh, I have been here, I know what's happening, blah, blah, blah. One of my favorite zones of all time is from Wrath of the Lich King. The Horde starting zone on the right side. That one, where Grommash Hellscream is. That zone. Because it's great. It's the start of the expedition. You're entering a barren tundra land that has different smaller biomes and stuff like that. It's great. It takes you all over the place. You learn the wildlife, what's happening, blah blah blah. It really feels different. It hits different. Okay, it's just so much different than just a zone you enter in for 5 minutes and then you're out. So I like the idea of zones actually mattering more than you spending more time. Either because there's more time that you need to spend there, or because they're bigger. As long as you get to experience the zones and whatnot, and you get a feel for them, I think that's a win.
Oh, it's really big. Wow, size. No, it is the fantasy, right? Like the design of the zones is great. The level of fantasy is just being pushed forward and forward and forward. Taking a look at somewhere like, say, Azkahet is real impressive. Azkahet, honestly, it does feel like a Suramar. Now, there are some very obvious, I'd say almost callbacks to Suramar. I mean, there's a very overt one with the guards basically, doing some barks that are callbacks. But with Azkahet, basically, you have the overall zone, which is massive, and then there's the city itself, which is also massive, and certainly it would remind you of Suramar. There are friendly Nerubians there, mixed, neutral Nerubians, angry Nerubians, because instead of just all being a bunch of bad guys, the Nerubians are basically a full-blown civilization. So that stuff is real impressive. The dungeons are continuing to be quite strong, I would say. Certainly, I think is it City of Threads? It's definitely feeling a little bit long, but overall, like the very positive trend is still continuing there. So as compared to, say, Dragonflight, well, Dragonflight was very much giving you things we'd seen before, right? Certainly done to an impressive level, yes, but fundamentally some things we'd seen before, like, say, Azure Span being kind of like a pan-Northrend. I think the most unique thing that Dragonflight probably did was the Waking Shores zone, which I really did like. Here, though, I think the Isle of Dorn is definitely the most traditional one. Hallowfall does really blow you away with spectacle. The Ringing Deeps doesn't really blow you away as much, but I think just the deep integration of the earthen technology, I think that just looks really cool. And again, it feels massive. It feels massive in the way of that sense of scale from the start of, say, Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, right? When Gandalf.
I also don't like when they over-design things. Not every piece of structure needs some kind of ornate decoration on it. A wall can just be a wall sometimes. It doesn't need to have a shield on it. It doesn't need to have, something growing on it. It doesn't need to be special. A wall can sometimes be a wall. And this is also a huge thing that I don't like about World of Warcraft's art direction, because it's kind of sensory overload. It's like watching Ant-Man Wasp Quantumania Morbin time, where, oh my god, my eyes, what is happening here in some situations?
Balrog are falling down, below.
And I think this is a perfect picture to just kind of just understand the problem here. In this picture alone, my head is in front, wait a minute. You see, in this picture right here, what do you see? Well, I see stuff because of the sake of stuff. Like, for example, these battles. Why are they there? Why the hell are you stacking battles on top of battles so they can fall over into the lava? What is this? What's the point of it? What is this? Why is there something on top of it but there's no access to it? Stuff like this. This is what World of Warcraft does a lot nowadays. They add stuff for the sake of stuff, but they never stop and ask themselves the very simple question of, does this even make sense to be here? Again, like, the hell are these battles? The hell is this? The hell is that? Why is it on top? How do you get on top? Why do you even have that there? Like, it's a railway track or a mine track or something like that. Why? What's the point of the structure even being there? Why? Why does this stuff exist in the first place? And stuff like this makes it overclouded. You could remove a lot of this and just, I don't know, add a stack of hay where, it's implied that the people there sit on or whatever. and it makes so much more sense, and it's still aesthetically okay, but having stuff for the sake of stuff is just dumb, in my opinion, pretty much always. This is what a lot of movies do wrong, this is what a lot of games do wrong. It's just, ask yourself this simple question. Does it make sense to be there? And if the answer is not, then add something that makes sense to be there. If you're gonna put something like this, I expect there to be at least a ladder or something that you can get on top of it, but you don't have it, it seems like.
That's right, when, Gandalf the Balrog are falling down, below Khazad-dûm, and they, just kind of goes to the big cave. And the sense of scale is just absolutely, it's impressive. It feels real high fantasy. That is happening here. So I think that's just good. I suppose there's just a wow factor to it all. The other thing then is story. So definitely we're looking at shorter campaigns compared to like some of the, the long past of the game. That being said, well, me and Matt were talking about it on stream, and ultimately the conclusion we came to is this is better than anything that we've seen, we think, since Warlords of Draenor. Now, I don't think that WoD can be topped for just like a linear campaign perspective. It was really strong. Here, it does definitely feel like it's forced.
Also, this I think is a problem, but this is something a lot of people will disagree with me. But again, just my opinion. So, when you're making a zone like this and you're adding a more mob density to it than goddamn, a metropolitan area in a popular city, when this zone has a higher living creature density than goddamn New York or whatever, I think that's also a problem. Okay, you're at the fucking beach. Every square meter is not gonna be covered with different mobs and shit. That's just stupid. Again, less is sometimes more, and I feel that World of Warcraft is really forgetting that that's the case.
Separate zones, but they are tied together better than really any of the recent previous expansions. A lot of the format is basically...
Like look at this. There's some kind of watery rock elementals, there's murlocs, and then there's crabs. The fuck is this?
You and the sort of gang of big name heroes kind of going on a big quest together. It works quite well. The side quests are also quite good. So really it does look like you're just gonna have a pretty good adventure. It's absolutely, I'd say, a step up over Dragonflight. It's obviously better than Shadowlands. I would definitely say at this stage is better than BFA, and honestly better than Legion, because Legion was just, hey, go get the Pillars of Creation. That's what you did, right? Just getting some MacGuffins. Here, it definitely feels much better. So, we're at the end of the alpha now. Beta will presumably happen maybe this week. It could be next week or the week after, but the zones are there, and that basically means it's time for endgame testing. So, big picture, I'm feeling real good about War Within. Then the final story of today probably doesn't matter to WoW.
Oh no, Xbox and Redfall and stuff closing. Who cares, Bellier? Relax. Anyway, this was Quizzer Said, Bellier. Thanks for watching, and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye!